Established in 1873, the Indiana Women's Prison is known for being the oldest correctional facility for adult women in the United States. But it also has a reputation for holding some of the most dangerous female criminals in the country. To get an idea of the kind of prisoners that have been held at the facility, let's mention just a few of them to get a clear picture. The duo of Melinda Loveless and Lori Tackett was known for being involved in the 1992 murder of a 12-year-old. The infamous Brandy Worley murdered her own 2 children in 2017, while Monserrate Shirley killed 2 neighbors and did massive damage to 80 homes while failing to orchestrate an insurance fraud. Looking at this list, it's safe to say the correctional facility has had its fair share of nightmare inducers. But Sarah Jo Pender rises above them for reasons that will send a shiver down your spine. Getting convicted for the murders of her 2 roommates, she's at the top of the list. But manipulating her boyfriend to take the blame is also there. She's known for escaping a high-security prison without any use of force, while also being termed as one of the few female most wanted criminals in the country. If that list of dark accomplishments isn't enough, then you might be interested to know she's widely known as the female Charles Manson for her way with words and her undue influence on people she can charm. Those are the reasons why Pender is known to many as America's deadliest female prisoner. But who is Sarah Pender? On the fine morning of October 24, 2000, then 21-year-old Sarah Jo Pender drove to the local Walmart in Marion County, Indiana, with her boyfriend Richard Edward Hull. But it was no ordinary walk in the park. During their trip, Pender bought a shotgun. Later that night, the same shotgun was used for the murders of her roommates, 24-year-old Andrew Cataldi and 25-year-old Tricia Nordman. To this day, Pender denies that she had any involvement in ending the life of the couple. Instead, she maintains that her only fault was helping Hull cover up the crime. On the other hand, Hull first pleaded guilty to the murders and agreed with Pender's account. It wasn't until later that he told an investigator it was Pender who pulled the trigger. But even as their accounts of the actual murders differ from each other, both Hull and Pender agree that they helped each other carry and throw the bodies into a dumpster near their home. Hull and Pender tried to destroy the evidence by burning off clothing and washing off as much of the blood from the home as they could. But when the police identified the victims' bodies from the dumpster and searched their home, enough evidence was found to convict them both of foul play. Both Hull and Pender were later convicted for being involved in the murders. That's when Pender's deadly nature got revealed to the world. During the trial, the prosecution shared evidence of a letter allegedly written by Sarah Pender for Hull, where she thanked him for taking the blame. "Drew was so mean that night, I just snapped," Pender allegedly wrote in the letter. "I didn't mean to kill them. It must have been the acid," the letter continued. "When you said you would try to take the blame, I knew then that you loved me deeply. At first I thought you would tell, but you stuck to your promise," Pender allegedly wrote. The letter ended with Pender allegedly asking Hull to destroy it. A forensic expert confirmed it was Pender's handwriting. Due to this show of manipulation and unprecedented influence over her accomplice, Pender earned the title of being the female Charles Manson right on the spot. Those who supported Pender's claim of only covering up for Hull out of love instantly raged against that title. But even in the middle of the uproar, Pender was found guilty and sentenced to 110 years in prison, whereas Hull was also convicted and was sentenced to 90 years in prison. But the story doesn't end there. Pender's manipulative nature came out in full force in October 2008, when she escaped the well-protected Rockville Correctional Facility at the age of 29. That was when she became America's most wanted woman, the only female at the time who snagged a spot on that infamous list. 2 months later, Pender was caught in Chicago. It was later revealed that she'd successfully seduced and manipulated a correctional officer into helping her escape from the prison using a transportation van. Speaking about the incident in a 2013 interview, Pender confessed that she planned her escape for a long time and sold contraband in prison to gather the money she needed after running free. She also confessed to having a sexual relationship with the correction officer, Scott Spittler, who first helped her sell contraband and then aided in her escape. She also mentioned that the authorities were upset with her because they thought she was too smart for their facility. According to an official at Rockville, Pender was one of the best manipulators she'd ever seen in her over 20 years of service in the Indiana Department of Correction. The official also maintained that Pender had preyed on C.O. Spittler's emotions, and successfully talked him into helping her escape. Spittler was sentenced to 7 years in prison. After her arrest and retrieval from Chicago, Sarah Pender was sentenced to a year of solitary confinement in the Special Housing Unit at the Indiana Women's Prison. But Pender's record and her behavior was so intimidating that the prison authorities kept her in the Special Housing Unit for at least 5 years, making her one of the most infamous female prisoners in modern American history. Once Pender got out of the Special Housing Unit, she sued the Indiana Women's Prison for violating her rights and keeping her in solitary confinement for half a decade. Pender still maintains her innocence in the murders of her roommates, and notes that she especially cried over Tricia Nordman's death. But despite Pender's claims, the so-called female Charles Manson has given new meaning to the idea of words being the most dangerous weapon of all. Pender has been transferred back to the Rockville Correctional Facility, but this time, the authorities are well prepared to prevent her from another prison